with that, so the recording has started, as you can see. I hope it's still recording. Yes. So let me talk a little bit about how we are going to run this. First of all, this is the first time I'm doing it. So I'm not a professional webinar person. I've never done this before. So if there are any technical glitches, please let me know. We'll try to fix it, and we'll try to make sure that you are involved in the conversation. We have exact 1 hour, and there are 15 people who are on the call. So I want to be sensitive, and I want to make sure that you get what you came for in this meeting. So first 20 to 25 minutes, I'll go through a very quick presentation. It does have a lot of material, but you don't have to read through everything, or of course you don't have to memorize anything. It just shares my research over time. But before that, it also tells you where we are coming from as a family, who my kids are, because that's the most important question in making this decision. Who your kid is and what their tastes are, what their interests are, what their personality is, all of that. And then hopefully we'll be done in by 11:25 on that, and then we will have this interactive conversation. And I want to make sure that we will limit the time that each person is speaking so that everybody has a chance to ask their question. So please think of your questions as you are reading through the presentation, and ask your one question, and then after everybody is done with their first question, we may come back for the second one. Okay? Any questions so far?
Ritu, this is Sunita. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi. So, yeah, my question is, like, my daughter is in Quest. She is a 5th grader.
So, Sunita, hold on. Sunita, hold on. So we will do the question after. Let me go through the stuff, because that may answer most of the questions that you may have for at least a lot of people. And then we'll come to the questions that are still unanswered, and try to keep it like more generic if you can, just because we are limited on time. But definitely we will address your questions after we have gone through the presentation.
Sure.
Okay. Any other high level questions how we are running for next 1 hour from anyone? Okay. So I will share my screen now, and I will stop my video, and let me know if somebody cannot see the screen. If you can, then that's okay. Let me first turn off my video. Now I'm going to share my screen. And let me know if you cannot see a presentation. Is there anyone who cannot see the presentation? Okay, so let's get started. Again, just a quick disclaimer, just because I know law too much. The stuff we are talking here is purely based on my experience as a parent. It has nothing to do with Lake Washington School District, and it has nothing to do with Cirkled, that's my company. So it's completely me as a parent. And by the way, initially in this, for next 20 minutes, if you can please mute yourself, that will be wonderful. Okay, somebody is, can everybody mute themselves, please? Because we are hearing some kitchen noise. Okay, so what I'm thinking in next 20 minutes, this is the stuff I want to talk about. First, the context in which we as a family made decision, and your context will be very specific to you. That includes your kids, your family stuff, or 2 working parent or 1 working parent, where do you live, where is a choice school, and stuff like that. And then second is things that really matter. What are the big items you should look for, which is what we look for, and what does signing up for choice school mean? And then we will talk about STEM high school, a lot of focus on that. Cambridge High School, I only have 1 slide. And this is all the data, all the research I did last year, and based on my visit and my one-on-one meeting with their teachers and staff. Then of course ICS, because it does have both middle and high school. And then in the end, I just put a couple of websites together for you to go and do your own research as you want. So let's start with, where did we start? So we started with my older daughter, who, by the way, now is in STEM. Let me tell you a little bit about her so you can see if your kids fall into the same category, or if not, what are the things you could be looking for in your kids. So Prakriti is very shy and she's extremely this rule follower. She will never break any rule. She will always go at the back of the line. That's the kind of person she is. And because of that, she had been bullied throughout her personal life, like from preschool all the way to seventh grade, I will say. Academically, she's great, very science oriented. Lately, she has decided that she wants to go in medicine, if that helps. She is challenged with executive functions, doesn't have good time management, doesn't have task management. She's a perfectionist, which is very difficult to deal with. And she finished her middle school at EMS. She was in Quest from 5th grade to 8th grade. 5th grade was pull-out Quest. 6th through 8th grade was at EMS full-time Quest. And the Quest in itself is whole another conversation that I won't go into. We were accepted first time in RAR that we did not take. She was also accepted in Overlake School, which is a private school, in 5th grade. We did not take. She was offered a spot finally in Stella Scola in 8th grade, which we did not take. So that's my older daughter. This is where we started with. And as you can imagine, since kindergarten, with the first kid, just like everybody does, we did a whole bunch of research. Then we had to restart with our younger daughter because things had changed over 3 years. This is 3 years younger, and after 3 years after our first research. She's in 6th grade right now in ICS. She's also shy and little reserved, but very different personality. She can stand up for herself, unlike her sister. Academically, she's ahead, not as brilliant as the older one, but she's good. And she's just very street smart and witty and funny. She has great executive functional skills. I never have to tell her to finish her homework. She comes home and the very first thing she will do, open her homework, and she will not eat dinner till she is done. So she's totally opposite to our first daughter. She finished elementary at Samantha Smith in Sammamish, Quest program, and she loved that. Samantha Smith has very family-oriented environment. I shouldn't say family, more like community-oriented. It didn't feel like you are a small fish in a big ocean. So she loved that. She was in Quest, as I mentioned, whole elementary school. And one distinction I will make, both our kids went to Montessori school in preschool. So they started with that environment where a more community-like feeling was developed from the early on. Right now, she doesn't know what she wants to do. She's just in middle school. She goes anything from, a garbage truck driver to astronaut and everything in between. So that's where she is right now. Now, over last 12 years, why I'm sharing my experience, because I have been engaged with the Lake Washington School District for last 12 years. And we have done, I'm a very research-oriented person, so I'm very data-based person. You will see that while I'm sharing some stuff with you. And we applied to all 5 choice schools in middle school and all, I think 2 or 3 high schools with both, with older one, and again, all 5 middle schools for our younger one as well. And we went to every single info night twice. I did compare private schools for first 5 years in elementary school when I first that is it worth spending money on private schools. As I mentioned, Overlake was one of the school. We went through the whole admissions process and she was accepted, but we didn't go. I have been volunteering at the district for last 12 years on and off, not constantly 12 years. Sometimes not so much in the classroom, but more like at a school level or at the district level. At home, we are both working parents and we are very hands-off parent, which is very different than, other Asian parents you may know. We are very hands-off. We live in Redmond Ridge because location makes a big difference for choice schools. So here are some of the things that I think matter for choice school decision. And I know it may not come it may sound like a cliche, but I will really say that let your child decide. And not that you say, hey, you go pick the school you want to go to. You put all the data in front of them, pros and cons, and then you say, you decide, where do you want to be? And it's not going to be easy for them either. It's going to be very, very difficult. And I'll share an example with you on that when we get to it. But it's very important that the decision is made by your child so you have their buy-in. It's not that, oh, I'm in this school because my mom and dad wanted me. It's a very different outcome versus, hey, I'm in this school because I chose to come to this school. So there's a big distinction there. You can even sway them in the direction you want them to go. But in the end, it should be their decision. Other thing, some of the things that you should consider that we considered were personality of a child. Some kids do very good independent work, and some people want to be part of a big peer group. Some want bigger schools, some thrive in smaller community. So these are the things you may or may not even know about your kid. We are getting some noise. Can everybody please mute their computers or phone, whatever you are using? Otherwise, I'll have to exit out of it and mute that line. Okay, you know what? I will have to do that, I think. So let me go. I'm gonna mute. Can I mute everyone at the same time? Probably not. Okay. Sorry for the interruption here. Let me go back here. Then other thing is importance of friends in the neighborhood to your school. Are they so closely tied to their friends in the neighborhood that they can't think about going to a classroom or to a school where their friends are not there? Executive function, I think that's one of the most important aspect that usually gets missed because we as parents, we don't think that kids, that's important in the sense that, oh, I'm here to help him or her. At some point, they have to be on their own, and you cannot be there for them all the time, even during the school. So that is why it's important for you to understand what is the executive function level of your kid. Can they manage on their own, or do they need you all the time? Then academic level. Are they academically aligned with where you are going to be? Now, most of the choice schools are not academic based. They are just lottery and choice based, but I will say that it's a self-selection process. Kids who are not academically aligned, they tend to drop out of choice schools, and in the end each school goes in a certain direction that they want to be. And another thing I will say, Quest is just one measure, not the only measure. You may have a brilliant kid in your household who does not do very well in Quest testing, and in that case they may not be in the Quest program. So assess from that angle as well. Extracurricular, some kids are just like very much into sports or music. If that is one of the things that your kid is in, consider that in your decision making. Okay, so these are the things that I believe as a family, as a parent, and as a student going into a school you should look into. Then understand what are you signing up for. So here are some of the things about choice school. And it's not just academic from a student perspective, but holistically as a family, what does it mean? Biggest thing is you have to compare it with your home school. People forget that. You can't make a decision in vacuum just looking at, say, ICS or looking at STEM or looking at Cambridge. You have to see what is your next best alternative, which is your home school. And how does this tie with that? How does it compare with that? If choice school is hosted in another school, you have to look at that environment as well. For example, Cambridge is housed in Juanita High School, and Cambridge culture is very much driven by Juanita High. So you have to look at Juanita High as the overarching or as an umbrella organization under which your kid will be going to. Other thing we just talked about, if you take spot, if you accept one choice school, you will be removed from every other wait list. So if you are on the border of some of the schools, this can be really, really hard choice. And we were there. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. And as I was mentioning, even though it's by lottery, know that most of the choice schools are academically rigorous. ICS, yes. STEM, yes. Cambridge, yes. All three of them I know are very academically rigorous programs. So, and it's a self-selection. If kid does not do well or they don't like it, they will drop out after first year. So keep that in mind, that it is going to be academically very rigorous. Then it's a much smaller community of students. In a choice school, like as an example in STEM, you only have 557 kids versus Redmond High that has 1,875. You can literally make 4 STEMs in one RHS. Okay, so it's a much smaller community, and some kids love that, some kids just hate that. They want much bigger pool of students to make friends from. Teachers will know your kids by name for most part, but it's not a small class size school. Keep that also in mind. People think that choice school is a smaller school, so you have teacher-student ratio better. You do not. These are determined by school district licensing, and district of course is going to put as less number of teachers as they can for X number of students. So it's not a small class size by any means. Logistics, transportation, do not undermine that. It is a big commitment. It can be a major pain in the rear, I can tell you that. In addition, there are mandatory volunteering hours in elementary and middle school. As an example, ICS has 30 hours mandatory that you have to give, which as a family can be difficult if you are both working parents, but as a community, it's amazing because you have engaged parents in a choice school. So these are some of the things that we considered, everything from friends for your kid to academic to logistics to the community size and all of that. Using that, another small thing, every school has different rules for math track. If your kid is a math whiz, look into that. And I can speak about this a little bit, but every school has different rules for math track. Especially if your kid is going from Quest, you may want to look deeper into this process. Okay. And sports. Sports are only at home school. Choice school will not offer you option for sports. Okay. So STEM, my experience, again, these are only my opinions. You may disagree entirely with that. I think STEM works best only if your kid is science or engineering focused. If your kid is art focused or sports focused, STEM may not be the good choice. They do deeper dive in science. It's not just you are doing physics, so you are doing physics. They do much deeper dive in physics. There are many internship opportunities, and it's very project based. Especially in 11th and 12th grade, it does become very project based learning. Other thing to know, it is a very much fixed curriculum. You don't have very many electives. Very limited choice, because think of it as a lockstep curriculum that 5 or 6 subjects are sort of fixed for you, and even the electives, you don't have very many choices. So keep that in mind. If your kid is looking for an elective in, let's say, culinary art, that STEM may not be the choice for them. Sports, we mentioned, especially in high school, sports become important for some kids. You can still go to your home school. My daughter did swimming at Redmond High. That does bring more logistics challenges. They do have orchestra and band music program, just FYI. I mean, sports is one thing they don't have, but definitely music they do. So other thing I say, you check out Wikipedia. Wikipedia has very high level gist on every school. So some of the pros and cons. For STEM, it's a brand new, fresh building, and that helps. Honestly, if the work environment is clean and doesn't have any issues, it's great. It helps with learning. Other thing I will say, it does have great team camaraderie. All these kids, they take pride, and as I was saying, it becomes self-selection. At some point, they call themselves as nerdy kids, and they take pride in that, which is great. So if your kid belongs to that group, he or she are going to thrive. But if not, then you may have to rethink. Small school size, very, very small school size, and parents are very engaged. Sukanya, as an example, like one Mamta, who's a friend of mine, she was involved with guiding a team when they went to Verizon app competition last year. So very engaged parents, and both from technology perspective, internship perspective, and bringing these kids out into various competitions, which are different, by the way, than most other regular high school competitions they go to. A big con is it has very poor English focus. English as a language is just a thing that has to be done. It becomes literally as a checkbox for STEM community. So other thing, so this morning when I was putting this presentation together, I know you all can go and do this research, but I thought I'll just share some of the high level ranking, because for high school, ranking may matter to you or may not. Irrespective of that, it does give you perspective on and some information on what this school is all about. And STEM is actually rated very high. Interestingly, 2017 rankings from US News, it says it's a #1 in Washington High School. I didn't think that was the case. I thought last year it was that aviation school down in Burien that was #1, but looks like STEM was #1, which is great. And you can see their college readiness, AP tested. These are some of the things you may consider when you are looking at a high school especially. And you can see English proficiency, yes, they are proficient, but compared to, let's say, AP testing, or compared to math, or compared to college readiness, it's a few points lower. So it tells you that English is not their major focus. There are other ratings. Don't go just by one rating. So I will share these websites with you. There's a Great Schools rating, and that rates schools on various attributes. And depending on what's important to you, you can go and see on that attribute, where does the school stand. So overall, Great Schools rate Tesla STEM as 10 out of 10. And by the way, there will be many other schools who will be 10 out of 10. Tesla is not the only one. Then School Digger is another website. It does the relative comparison between one school and the other. And apparently Tesla STEM in 2017 was better than 98.7% high school. So it's literally in top 2.5%, which is great. Test score, their calculated average standard score was 90.71. And you can read more about these on all these websites if you want to dig deeper into that. But if you're just looking to make a high level decision and you say, just tell me if this is a good school or not for my kid, then there are different things you need to look at. Rate My Teachers is actually different than school rating. So Rate My Teachers website gives you ratings on teachers, not on the school itself. So here you will see there are some really good teachers and there are not so good teachers. And that is a mixed, you will find in every school. This is actually reviews and ratings done by students themselves. So you have to take it with a grain of salt, but it is a pure raw feedback coming from the classroom. Okay, now let me share a little bit about Cambridge. This is based on, because we were offered a spot in Cambridge and then we ended up declining it, and we chose to stay on the wait list for STEM, and she got in. She got into STEM the very first day of school. So she started in Redmond High for first hour, and then we immediately pulled her out and brought her to STEM, and then she started same day. We didn't want her to miss her first day at STEM. And the reason we declined Cambridge is because that's what I'll share with you. But again, this is very specific to my kid, my daughter, who is very science focused and needs a different environment. So from academics perspective, Cambridge is focused on arts and writing and humanity. Program is great, but it's not very well known about in US colleges. And we didn't want to be in a position where we have to go and explain what Cambridge means to every single college out there. Whereas AP, which is alternative to sort of Cambridge, like in STEM or Redmond High, that's very popular. Every college knows what does AP mean. Now, having said that, even in Cambridge, they can take AP test and can get the score for AP. So, but it does become an extra workload. In terms of culture, Juanita High is the culture of Cambridge. Even though it's a smaller school, but it sits in a bigger high school. So some of the small community feel is a little bit lost. And whatever Juanita High is doing tends to have its impressions on Cambridge. Logistics, as you all know, it's being rebuilt. Last year when we discussed 2020 was supposed to be the completion. By that time, our older daughter will be literally in senior year, and we did not want that noise and pollution and all of that, including the labs will be in portable, and we didn't want that for our daughter. We thought it's going to be a big distraction. Then overall ranking, Redmond High was 165 and Juanita High was not even ranked in first 500. There is no separate ranking for Cambridge because it's housed in Juanita High. So again, you have to take it with a grain of salt. Does that ranking mean for Cambridge as well as Juanita High? Okay, moving on to ICS. Here I shared one of the poll I had run. So my younger daughter, she was in our home school is Evergreen Middle School. She's in our Quest program, and then we got into ICS much later into the school year. She was on wait list number 98, and they only take 75 kids, and we knew or we thought she won't get in this school year. So we prepared her for Evergreen Middle School, and then literally like 2 weeks before school year start, we got an acceptance letter. And I was very confused at that time, and I did a poll on Facebook, same group, and of course, as you can see, 12 people did say let her stay in Evergreen, and 7 people said move her to ICS, and we ended up taking the ICS spot. And here's what some of our findings. There is no consensus on whether ICS is art focused or science focused. I have heard both opinions. When you are looking at ICS, don't just think about middle school. It's a 7-year program, so you have to think about high school. It does make your job a little harder because you have to decide for much longer time span. It is heavy academic rigor and with lots of homework, but the time spent on homework depends on your kid. If your kid is very efficient, they can finish in less than an hour. And some kids, like for example, my older daughter will spend her whole evening on homework. So it really depends on your your child and how efficient they are with working. That is why I never ask parents how long does it take for the homework. I know it's a very typical question because it depends a lot on the kid himself or herself. One issue that we had with ICS was last year there was a whole churn of teachers. There was a principal that moved out in 2 years. There were lots of teachers who either resigned or quit or retired. So jury is still out on what does that mean? Is that good or is that bad? We don't know yet. Then there are some good clubs in ICS, science club, math club, robotics club, and they're similar to every other school. From the pros and cons perspective, only thing I will highlight here, and you can read the rest of it, 2 things. One is the offsite camp they do for incoming 6th graders, which is they take kids for 3 days and it's all bonding exercise, which is amazing. And then every year they have this focus group for 1 week. 1 week, you choose what you want to do. There are 10 or so options. There are international trips, there are national trips, there are local based in Redmond, Kirkland area, some things you can do, but you are not in the classroom for that 1 week, which I think is one of the best thing. Engaged parents, definitely we talked about that. Other thing is the one advantage of ICS is because it's both middle and high school students actually help middle school students. And for 2 reasons, and it's through a program called STAMP. One is there's a community feeling, and 2, they get volunteering hours. So there is that relationship between middle school and high school. On the other side, as I mentioned, there has been a lot of attritions even among students, and we don't know why. Many old teachers have left. They don't have very good orchestra teacher. In fact, they were not even going to have orchestra program this year because they didn't have a music teacher. And now a music teacher came, but she's only good in band. So kids who are a little bit advanced in orchestra, they teach younger kids in that club, which is not the best solution, but yeah, it's okay. For high schoolers, teachers, it's very difficult to get 4.0 in ICS high school. That is one of the thing you have to really consider, because in high school your GPA matters a lot, and if teachers are not giving 4.0, then you have to go and explain to colleges that, oh, I was in ICS, which is very strict, very hard, and teachers didn't give 4.0. You can check the difficulty level of the program. So that becomes extra work on you. I asked my daughter what are the 2 things she likes or dislikes. This is what she said. She doesn't have to run from class to class, and the STAMP program that I just mentioned about, where older kids help the younger kids. And the art is mandatory in ICS. In my opinion, it's very balanced. I think it's balanced between science and art. Art is mandatory, which is not in a regular middle school, and the teacher is also very strict. So she's not super thrilled about that. Then from ranking perspective, it is number 80 in national ranking. And this is mainly high school. Keep that in mind. There's no ranking for middle schools. It's only for high school. So some of these rankings may not apply to middle school. Same thing here, grade schools rating, and this is for middle school as well, little bit. They do track that, but mostly again focused on high school. School Digger, it puts ICS at 99.3%, which is actually little higher than STEM, interestingly. Test scores are little higher than STEM as well. Rate My Teachers, exactly same thing. Very mixed ratings, good ratings as well as bad ratings for teachers. And that probably you will find in every single school. There's nothing different here about that. And some of the resources I was mentioning are, of course, you can check US News, Great Schools, and School Digger tell you about school rating. Rate My Teachers is for the teacher rating. One of the things that I believe is very underutilized is actually course catalog. So especially for high school, you have to define the 4-year path for the student, at least in the core subjects, not so much in electives. And the best resource for that is course catalog. There are usually changes from one year to the next, but not major changes. More or less it remains the same. Other thing I will say, Google that school name and check out the latest news. I will say one thing, that when I was doing the research on Cambridge, I Googled Cambridge and I found something which was completely not acceptable to me. And that was one of the major reasons for us to decline Cambridge. So, and this was 3-year-old story. Today it's very different. I will say just Google your school name and see what do you find. Okay, that was the end of my presentation. I want to be sensitive to the time. We are at 11:35, a little over than what I wanted to spend on the presentation. Hopefully it answered some of your questions, if not all. Now, I guess we can go into a specific question. If you have any question related to any of these high schools or ICS, I'll be more than happy to share my experiences with you.
I have one question. Thank you for the great presentation. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, it's a great presentation. I really appreciate it. And I have one question is that, you did a lot of information on ICS, on STEM, and also appreciate your data on Cambridge too, because that's the choice I'm having now. And so I wonder, have you got any data Because my kids are really, I'm lucky. I have really good kid, and our target is pretty on the selective schools, on this top tier selective, very competitive schools, college.
Okay.
So, do you have any data for each of the school, like ICS, STEM and Cambridge, or even anything you have, from each of the high school, go to this top tier school, college. Do you have any data like that? How many of
So,
students can go?
so no, I don't have that data, and unfortunately, none of the high school, they can't answer that question either. When I was in open house for Overlake, which by the way charges over $33,000, sorry, yeah, $33,000 at that time, I asked them, can you tell me where do your graduates go after senior year, like in terms of top 10 colleges, Ivy League colleges, top 50 colleges? They did not have that data. And I know that now because afterwards I have been in communication with Overlake regarding my company, which is Cirkled indifferently, and they don't have that data. No school can tell you, for most part, they don't maintain the data. They can say, I think Johnny went there and Sarah went there, but they have anecdotal data. They don't have the data. So I don't have that data either. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So just adding on to that, Ritu, this is Manjari. So basically, I was also interested in knowing about college placements and stuff. So if you're saying there is no direct way to find it out, any other website or resource center from where we can, dig out some info?
No, the only thing you will get is from these rankings where they say college readiness. And you can go into each website and see what does that mean? How are they measuring college readiness? But there is no data that will tell you from, let's say, Redmond High or STEM, 40% went into Ivy League colleges or top 10 colleges, and 20% went into liberal arts colleges or small. There is no such data, unfortunately.
Okay. And no such similar thing about scholarships either?
No, scholarship is even worse. There's no even ranking that says scholarship readiness. At least for college, you have college readiness. Scholarship, absolutely no. At least I haven't found. If anybody else knows, please feel free to share.
Yeah, if I find, I'll definitely share it on that FB group. Sammy has a very quick question, a little different. So go ahead,
Yeah.
Sammy.
So I've been accepted into Cambridge, and I'm aware that it's tied with Juanita High School. So I was wondering, would I do sports with Redmond High School, my home school, or with Juanita?
Sorry, say the question again. What would you do sports with, you mean?
Yeah, who would I do sports with?
With your home school. With your home school, Redmond High.
Okay.
Now, if Juanita was your home school, it makes things very easy. So yes, last year there was a kid, for them it was decision between Juanita High and Cambridge, and they picked Cambridge because a lot of things became moot point. You are in the same culture, you are in the same community anyway, you might as well go for, better rigorous academic program. So they ended up going with Cambridge because their homeschool was also Juanita High.
I'm Monica. Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so there is a difference here, I think, with Anita and this one. For Cambridge, I think you can do after-school activities in Vanita. That's another reason you need to consider Vanita culture even more.
Thank you for clarifying that, Monica. I did not know that. So that's a good point.
Okay, thanks, Monica. Yeah, I read something similar on Facebook, but I don't know the person personally, so I also had no idea how it works out.
Yeah, for STEM, the thing is then you need to commute a child to Redmond High for the high school sports. So that's the cons. And for Vanita, the other cons is like, the problem is that they stay back there. So now, no, that poses a different problem with carpool and stuff. So.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Monica.
Hey,
and thank you, Ritu.
Yes.
This is Bala.
Thanks.
Hi, this is Bala. I'm with Sukanya. Our questions were pertinent to ICS versus Quest. So our daughter, Shudhika, she's kind of in fifth grade Quest, and she our differences between ICS versus Quest, given that you did a little bit of both. And then you also had a point about the homework efficiency.
Mhm.
Now, ICS homework, is that volume or is that complexity?
That's a good question, and I think it's a little bit of both. So I'll tell you, when I was making this presentation, my younger daughter, she was with me, and I was asking her like, what do you like, what you don't like, and when I put in their academic rigor, she did not like that. She said, "No, I don't have very much homework." I'm like, "You do?" She's like, "No, I'm done in an hour." So, like for example, every Friday they have a unit test, and for which they have to prepare. And what she said, it's all up to kid. If you procrastinate till Thursday, you're going to stress out. But if you do that starting from Monday or Tuesday, because you know it's coming, it will make things easier. And as specific to your question, I have seen both. And again, because my younger daughter is very efficient, I don't see that as a problem. If there was a problem, I would have dug deeper into, is it volume or is it complexity? Um, she seems to be doing fine. I will say sixth grade, it does start a little bit more on volume scale than on complexity, because sixth grade, it's still mix of all types of kids, right? People take ICS because, oh, I got into ICS, I have to take ICS. And by the time they get to seventh or eighth grade, they say, okay, this is not for me, I'm going to drop out. And then it gets more into complexity of the homework, digging deeper into the concepts. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
So yeah, that pretty much saying. But then ICS versus Quest, do you have any inputs?
Depends on where your kid is going for Quest. Do you know where?
Redmond Middle School.
Okay, so interestingly, my daughter was in Sammamish in Samantha Smith Elementary School, and she was going to go to Redmond Middle. Then we moved her somehow. She got moved into Evergreen Middle. So we did look at Redmond Middle, and we did
Uh-huh.
look at Evergreen Middle as well. Redmond Middle was pretty much at par with Evergreen Middle School Quest, and because of our older daughter, we had more experience with Evergreen Middle. Between those two, I believed ICS is better, because in Evergreen Middle Quest, what happens is these are just regular teachers that teach general ed, and they also teach Quest. And there, it's purely volume. All they have done, they put seventh grade curriculum in sixth grade, eighth grade curriculum in seventh grade, and teachers just give busy work. That was my experience with our older daughter, and she struggled with it. And also, other thing that you have to keep in mind, what happens in middle school, one, of course, it depends on your kids' executive functional skills, and number two, there's a lot of teenage drama happens. I know you have heard this before, but we personally experienced with my older daughter as well. So all these things combined, it does become hard middle school, and having these volumes and volumes and volumes of homework did not help.
And teenage trauma, do you mean there's more bullying in Redmond Middle School? Because I saw a concerned parent saying the same about ICS. Are you referring to bullying, or are you referring
No,
to trauma
no, I
from
was
work?
not referring to bullying. It's also friendships and finding their place, and am I fitting in, all of that stuff. Bullying is a whole another conversation.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I
No,
didn't
no,
mean
that's
to
okay.
be wanted to get so
Can
tired.
I speak? This is Suchi. So my kid goes to Quest in Evergreen. I think one of the aspects is it's a very large school. Evergreen, Redmond Middle, they're very very large school. The kid finding their place in a very large school, and the kid's personality plays a role in all the dynamics that we are talking about. So it's very dependent on the student and how their personality. It's very difficult to call out a school um, kind of specifically. It is very dependent on the student and their personality and how they are managing with a crowd.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Suchi. I absolutely agree. So, as an example, if I envision my younger daughter in Evergreen, I think she will do fine. I mean, she will still have a little bit harder time, but she will do way better than my older daughter.
Hey,
Okay.
Ritu, this is Chitra.
Yes.
I have a question. Do you have some information on the academics for Redmond High School versus Eastlake High School and STEM? Because I mean, getting into choice schools are, the chances are very limited. So, what do you think about the academics for Redmond High School?
So only thing I know that I have talked to, interestingly, I did talk to math department head at Evergreen, at Eastlake, because I was trying to get some information about math track. That school is more sports focused, and Redmond High is very academic focused. That clearly is the case. And I know a family who have a kid in Eastlake, and they were looking for a variance to Redmond High, and that was not granted. And their concern was that Eastlake is very sports focused program versus Redmond High. And as far as curriculum is concerned, everything is in their course catalogs. Courses probably will be similar between Eastlake and Redmond High, but you also have to consider the people your kid is going to be surrounded by. Is he or she going to be surrounded by like-minded, depending on who they are, or is it going to be like a little bit of misfit? Depending on if your kid is sports oriented, I would say Eastlake is a much better choice. But if they are not so much sports focused, or if they are more academic focused, then Redmond High is a better choice, in my opinion.
Great, thank you.
Hey Ritu, thank you for organizing this. I had a quick question. You brought up initially that it is academically rigorous. As an example, and you also mentioned that everyone moves in lockstep. So I'd like to understand, for example, in grade 9, are they doing Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, or what is the class that they're doing in 9th?
Are you talking about STEM?
Yes, STEM, sorry, STEM specifically.
So interestingly, math track has its own path, and your kid can decide where they want to be placed, because it's a sequence. So you start with, let's say, of course, CMP, it's called consolidated, or some core math program, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8, and then algebra starts. Algebra, geometry, algebra 2, pre-calculus, calc AB, calc BC, and then stats. So you just have to have permission, pre-written permission from high school counselor to take the test of the prior level during summer, and then you can go to the next level. So as an example, in Evergreen Middle School, for Quest, you take for non-Quest also, for all kids, you take a test for algebra after 6th grade. And if you pass that, you directly start algebra in 7th grade. And that's what 8th grade. 8th grade, you do the algebra. That's what my daughter did in Evergreen. She also did online course, which a lot of kids do. You spend about $500 or so. You can take during summer an online course. Let's say you take geometry 2, geometry. If you do geometry, then your next level becomes algebra 2. So kid decides what the math path he or she is going to be.
Got it. Typically, the incoming cohort, majority of them, do you know what do they end up with? Do they do Algebra 2 or Pre-Cal in 9th?
Oh, actually, it's not even Algebra 2. Most of them probably start with Geometry. Algebra 2, or second step is Algebra 2. Pre-Calc is very, very limited number of kids who get into Pre-Calc in 9th grade.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay, any other question?
Hey, Ritu, you mentioned that the statistics of college placement and internship, etc., are not available for the high schools. However, Interlake provides all those details. Do you know why LWSD high schools do not provide that? I mean, I'm not saying that you should know that, but do you know?
Actually, I didn't know Interlake provides that. Maybe they have some internal database they maintain. The primary reason is they just don't have the mechanism today. They don't track year over year. One of the thing is that high schools are measured mainly on high school graduation rate. if you have 100 students, how many of your high school kids are graduating and finishing high school? So most of the schools are just focused on that. Few years ago, or many years ago, there was this legislature that was passed. It's called Beyond High School Program, which is where college readiness falls into in that bucket. So as part of Beyond High School program, these high schools were charted with another assignment or another metric, if you will, by saying how many of your kids are going to be college ready or post high school ready. And that is, again, it is up for debate on if they are doing a good job at that or not. My opinion is that they're just checking the box by having kids create a portfolio or having kids have a resume and cover letter and then say, yeah, you're all set. So they just don't have the means today to track or any motivation to track where high school graduates are going.
So it's means and motivation and not a legislation that says you should not track any such details.
Oh, no. In fact, law will support that. And here's why. If think about it, if high school principals and administrators knew exactly where their kids are, you can do the data mining on those kids aggregately, not individually. You don't want that individual level, but aggregate. You can say, okay, what was the common attribute among these high school kids that made them successful? And you define success as a school. What does that mean for you? It could be how many of my kids are going to four-year college. It could be any college. And based on that data mining, you can say, okay, all these kids played basketball. I'm oversimplifying, but let's say it came back and said all these kids played basketball. Then, hey, as a school, I would like to bring basketball in every classroom curriculum. Why not? But so absolutely nothing against tracking or finding. It's just that they don't do it today, even though in today's day and technology.
So the Tesla STEM Info Night document did have some colleges that kids attend from Tesla.
Yeah.
And so there are some pretty impressive names in there.
Oh, yeah. So that you will get in every high school. So every high school will be able to tell you, actually, if you go to their career center, you will see different flags of various.
Got it. Oh, you won't see the percentage. You won't get the percentage of who's going where.
No, you won't get the percentage, and you won't even get the breakdown of full population. They will say, like, for example, from Tesla STEM, you can easily claim our kids went to Yale and MIT and Caltech and whatever. But it could be just one kid out of like 3,000 graduates from that college, from that school. It doesn't mean anything, in my opinion.
Oh, that makes sense.
Okay, any other question?
Hey Ritu, this is Chitra. I have another question. So what is the option for kids to apply for ICS back in 9th grade? Is ICS listed as a choice school when we apply for choice schools again in 9th grade, or is it not an option anymore?
Yeah, and actually that is a glitch in the system. Ideally, you are not supposed to reapply. Your same wait list goes from 6th grade all the way to 12th grade. But last year, what did happen, somehow there was a system glitch. So if I'm on a wait list for ICS, I could apply again on 9th grade. And if I get a better number, I could be at that number. I don't know, they may have fixed that this year. I don't know. But ideally, it's the same wait list.
Thank you.
Okay, any other question on decision making on choice school? Anything?
I just want to, Ritu, I just want to stand one thing, one information. Since my kid is going to Evergreen Quest, so you have the option of taking Algebra 1 from 7th grade if you qualify by taking a pretest, and then you can go to Geometry 1 in 8th grade if you qualify on a pretest. So the kid will be, when they go to 9th grade, they will be ready with Algebra 2 or something like that. Just wanted to share that information.
Yes, yeah, and thank you for the correction, Suchi. And that's actually exactly what my older daughter did, and I didn't remember the exact sequence because the math track is driven by the kid, as you mentioned. So in normal middle school, you will have CMP 6, 7, and 8. And 8 is a parallel path to Algebra 1, if I remember correctly. And in Quest, or even general ed, if you take a test after 6th grade, some schools allow that and some schools don't. So after 6th grade, you can take a test and either get placed. If you don't pass the test, you go to CMP 7 and then you go to CMP 8. But if you do pass, you jump one grade or one level, and you go on a different track altogether, which is Algebra 1 track. And then in 8th grade, you can do geometry. And then my older daughter did Algebra 2 over summer. And then she's in pre-calc in 9th grade. And she will take Calc AB in 10th grade, Calc BC in 11th grade, and statistics in 12th grade.
So if the kids are taking Algebra 1 in 7th grade, when they write their SBA test for 7th grade, do they do a specific test for Algebra, or do they still take the same 7th grade SBA math test? How does that work?
I don't remember the details, but I think SBA is still at the grade level. SBA is not at the algebra level.
Okay.
Any other question from anybody else?
Hi, it's Sammy again, not under mom's name, but I was wondering, on the Cambridge course catalog, etc., the math track looks kind of different. Other than having it subject-based, it's just Math 1, Math 2. So I was wondering if you knew how that worked.
Yes, I know to some extent. In Cambridge, it's a totally different curriculum. So the Cambridge program is actually from UK, Cambridge University. It's driven by that, and there's no one-on-one matching with a regular high school program and Cambridge program. And in Cambridge, there's no test and jumping over, no such thing. There's a Math 1, Math 2, Math 3, and same thing goes with IB program, which is at Interlake Bellevue School. So yeah, that's totally different package, if you will, for both Cambridge and IB program. IB is a little bit more in alignment with AP, and colleges know a little bit more about IB. Cambridge does not have very much one-on-one correlation. It's very little correlation and matching between the two programs.
Oh, so they know colleges, they know more about IB than AP?
No, they know most about AP, then next level is IB, and then next level is Cambridge. So on your transcript at the end of the high school, you get against each course, you get A for AP, I for IB, I think it's I, and C for Cambridge. And then if there's no letter against that, it was a regular class. Honors and regular, I think honors has H as well. So if you do bio honors, it will have H at the end of your transcript for that subject. So on the basis of that, colleges know what kind of course you have done. And from my understanding was Cambridge was least known. There is a website, by the way, that Cambridge publishes list of colleges that acknowledge Cambridge program. So you may want to check that out.
Do you know what website it was?
I'll have to dig through that. It was last year I looked at it, but
yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Just to add, hello. Monica here again. Just to add there, University of Washington is generous enough to understand Cambridge if that is the target for a student.
Yeah, and that is
I'm
why
not sure about other colleges. Yeah.
And that is why that website is important, because if you know your college is there on that list, it's much easier conversation to have. And if they already know about your program, about Cambridge program, and understand how rigorous that is, because Cambridge is also very rigorous. So you may want some credit for your extra work.
Oh, right. Yeah, thank you.
Hey Ritu, your kid is in STEM right now, so you probably know a whole bunch of kids who are in their class.
Yes.
Do you know of cases where kids have transferred from Overlake or EPS or other private schools? And what is their feedback on, was it the right choice, or they feel they should have stayed back, vice versa?
No, not from private school. I don't think people come from private school to STEM. At least I have not come across that. People have come from Redmond High to STEM. So there is one kid I know, he came in sophomore year. And when we initially were not sure if our daughter will get in freshman or not, so we did do the curriculum planning from if she did 9th grade in RHS, Redmond High, and 10th grade in STEM. And there was just one subject she had to do more, which was on computer science related. But other than that, it was pretty decent transition. And I do know one kid who came in STEM at sophomore year and he did perfect, no issues whatsoever. I do know another kid who came in sophomore and within 2 weeks he left. He went back to Redmond High because he said, this is not for me. I feel I'm behind. I feel it'll take me forever to catch up with the rest of my cohort. So he left.
Got it. So do you, like there's not a single kid who's transitioned from a private school in middle school to Tesla STEM?
There
Really?
may be. It's just that I'm not aware of one.
Got it. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Any other question?
Hey Ritu, have you considered Interlake in your decision making?
Yes, we did. Interestingly, actually, we talked to Interlake and we looked at their IB program. And because we were not sure if Prakriti will get into STEM or not, so that was very challenging. Actually, we went back and forth for months with Interlake because they will not even consider your kid unless you are living in the Bellevue School District boundary. Couple of years before that, they were open to variants from Lake Washington. I know a kid who is Lake Washington kid and is attending IB program in Interlake, but now they have changed the rule.
Thank you.
Hey Ritu.
Hi.
My name is Makran. You mentioned that when selecting a choice school, the transportation is one of the major thing and not to be underestimated.
Yes.
And we are worried about the transportation part because these choice schools don't have their own bus system.
Right.
So are there any private players that help with these things to drop off and pickups for the kids?
No, there's no such thing. You have to rely on carpool. And let me also add that some choice schools have some transportation. It's not from your home. So as an example, ICS has a bus that goes from Evergreen Middle School to ICS. But you still have to drop off and pick up your kid from Evergreen. And morning is okay, not a big deal, but evening becomes very, very challenging because it's literally half of your work day. At 2 o'clock, if you have to be at Evergreen, that means you need to leave work at 1:30, which can be really pain in the rear. So that's that. Number two, if your kid is attending any after school program, any club, math club or robotics or orchestra or choir, then you have to pick them up from ICS. Now, little advantage of ICS is there's something called homework club. So they can stay there, if I remember correctly, till 4:15, though we have never leveraged that, but kids can stay and do their homework in the school, but I think there's a very dead hard stop at 4:10. Jyotika, are you still there? I know Jyotika's kid uses that quite a bit.
Yes, I'm here. Yeah.
So Jyotika, do you remember what is the drop dead time for pickup?
So 2:10 is like school ends, and every day there is a different type of club kids like to attend, like ASB or orchestra, band, choir, and sometimes the science, robotics is there, right, Ritu?
Right.
But kids can stay there till 4:15. 4:15 is the deadline.
Okay.
If kid is not doing any other activity, any club, but they can stay in the school, and there is a senior kids. It's called as a study circle. They teach middle schooler, or anyone can take help with homework or any extra activity. They can stay and take classes there. So I think 4:15 is the deadline. But there was a new email came out, like if you are not in any activity, you should leave by 3:15. I'm not sure about that yet. Yeah, but usually my daughter stays till 4:15. 15. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so also remember, rules change from year to year as well. At least there's a slight modification, as I just mentioned about Interlake School. And same thing what Jyotika is sharing is, I know kids could stay in that study circle till 4:10 or 4:15. She's saying 4:15. But if they're changing that policy that, hey, if your kid is not in any club from 2:10 to 4:15, you can't just leave your kid in the school. So you may have to pick up by 3:15.
What are the kinds of clubs or after school activities at Tesla STEM?
So Nilesh, that changes from year to year. There is usually sort of an info night, club night that you can go to find out. And also on their website, that information is there. There's a pretty long list. I can't even go through that.
Is that parent and volunteer driven, or is that teacher driven, or just kids doing it themselves?
It's students driven. It's high school. They are almost adults. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it was like senior kids and sophomores, juniors kind of running them, or
all mixed. All mixed.
Right.
Yeah.
Hi Ritu.
Yeah.
This is Sunita.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you compare, Evergreen Middle School Quest versus ICS academically?
Yeah, and I think that is what we just talked about. I don't know if you heard that or not. I personally like ICS from academic perspective because my older one went through EMS Quest, and my impression of EMS Quest was that there is more homework given to keep them busy, whereas in ICS there is no such thing. There is academic rigor, but it's pretty much same for all the kids, and I do think that ICS is a little bit more well-rounded, whereas in EMS Quest community stays separate. So the academic rigor for Quest is different than, it's no better or worse, it's just different than ICS. That ICS is more well-rounded education, in my opinion, compared to EMS Quest.
So, my son also got it at ICS. He is a senior at Interlake High School right now. And we decided not to send him there because that time he got it at STEM, then Interlake, then East Side, all those schools, and finally he decided to go to Interlake. He got it at Prism, so he thought he wants to go there.
Right.
So yeah, we like that curriculum, but with ICS, my concern is they start AP at 11th grade. And they have a very limited APs. So this is what we are considering we should, send her to ICS, or we should keep going with the Quest, and then we can put her in Lakeside in high school. So yeah, I don't know, but that AP thing is a big concern for us because 11th is too late for APs.
Right. So I have not looked at, let me just say, I have not looked at the high school curriculum for ICS. Only thing I know, it's a 7-year curriculum. So when I was doing evaluation, I only focused on middle school for now, and I briefly looked at the high school. But I did not go to that level of where the AP is. One thing I will say, in STEM, AP starts in 9th grade, whereas Redmond High does not let you take any AP class in 9th grade. So
yeah. Bellevue, you can start at 9th. Even some APs you can take it at 8th too.
Okay.
So
nice.
Yeah, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But yeah, someone else was talking about AP at ICS.
Yeah. AP, I think it starts at 9th grade at ICS.
No, it's 11th. That is for the sure, I know. They start at 11th APs. I talked to them, I talked to some parents, because we have to decide within a week. So that's our concern. So 11th, and they have a very limited APs. Very core subjects. They don't have much options for APs.
That will happen in every choice school. So you have to be very clear. When you go to, there's a price you pay for being in a smaller school. Now think about it. If you are in Redmond High, you have close to 2,000 students. They will have to have more choices because they can fill each class with 25 kids. If you are in a school of 500 kids, they will have to keep limited number of courses so they can fill the class with 25 kids. So which means you can only have, let's say, 20 choices at best. So
Yeah, but don't you think it's negative for kids because they are not getting options from sixth grade? Like, they are very limited with the subjects and options. They are just designed to do things like, okay, these are the options, you have to do this.
So that is why it's called choice school. You choose whether you want to go or not. It's a certain path
makes
you are
sense.
following. Like if you are in STEM, if you ask any kid who is in 11th grade in STEM, they don't miss other electives. They don't miss anything. Why? Because their core curriculum is so rich and so much in alignment with what they want to do. So that's why they are still in STEM. But if they were looking for, as I said, as culinary arts as one of their elective, STEM may not be for them.
Yeah. But, taking AP at 11, because I know one of my friend's son, he is in ICS, and he is a senior this year. He got at Rice, for ED. So he knows he is going to the Rice, but this year he has 6 APs. And I asked her mom, like, why he is doing 6 APs now? And she said, because he doesn't have any other options.
Right.
He could take AP at 11th grade, and now he can take all those APs in 12th grade. He is going for computer science, but he offered, he get offered just in 12th grade for computer science. He didn't get anything before 12th grade.
Yeah.
So those are the things which I'm like little bit concerned.
Yeah, and
ICS versus the regular school. Like my son is going to Interlake. He did everything in 11th grade. Because the Prism student, they have to finish their IB in 10th and 11th grade.
Right.
So he is done with his IB. He is done with most of his APs. And, now he is doing internship. Still he is doing internship and his school things. So they have those times to, for their college prep and all those things, and sometime in senior year to do internship and all other options. So,
hey, Sunita, let me ask anybody else if anyone else has any questions on specific to choice school decision.
Yeah. Hey, Ritu, quick question on ICS again. So when you say well-rounded, will it be more creative and will it drill down on the depth, or when you say well-rounded, what does it mean? Can you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, so for example, arts is mandatory in middle school, whereas in Evergreen, there is no art. I mean, you can take as elective, but I personally, even though my daughter is probably science focused, the younger one, the middle school, but having that component of art, I think is really good for her. It's important. They have art, they have international studies. So by well-rounded, I not only mean balance between art and science, it's
art
international.
Yeah. Makes sense. And how about the creative portion of work? Is it will there be room for creativity, or what does that mean?
Art is the creative. So other thing I will tell you in ICS based on our experience in last 1 year, they take a topic and that topic is fed into pretty much all the subjects. So their science teacher will work with art teacher, will work with international studies teacher. So the teachers work together. So if, let's say they are doing Egyptian history. So art teacher will work on, hey, let's draw something, Egyptian pyramids and stuff like that. International studies will say, what is the history on Egyptian and what is the architecture, what is the, so it seems like there's a lot of collaboration among teachers to make sure that kid is not like working on Egypt in one subject and US in another subject and physics in another subject. It's very much aligned.
Sure.
That is our experience so far.
It all combines together. Okay,
Yes.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that was one of the things I really like about ICS.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. Teachers coming together.
Yes.
It's coming from elementary to middle. That helps a lot.
Yeah.
And are you happy with their maths curriculum?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so she came from Quest. She took the placement test in 6th grade because she had already done CMP 6 in 5th grade because she came from Quest. So she took the test even though she was late joining in the school, but she took the test, she passed, and she went on to CMP 7. And then next year she will take test for Algebra to get into Algebra 1.
Okay. Okay.
Hey Ritu, this is Chitra again. So I know you looked into the IB program in Interlake High School. What is your thought on that? Did you like the program? And how do we get into IB program? Like, is that more like a placement test, or how does that work?
So first of all, you have to be in the Bellevue School District to be in IB program. They changed the rules 2 years ago. If you are in Lake Washington, you can't be in their IB program. And I mean, honestly, it's a pretty long conversation on IB itself. I personally liked the program. If my kid had not gone to STEM, we would have tried really, really, really hard to get her in IB.
So is there a placement test for that? Or if you live in a Bellevue school district, you can just apply for the IB program, or how does that work?
You can just apply for IB program. And if you are PRISM student, then you can start that in 10th grade. If you are a regular student but living in Bellevue School District, you apply to Interlake High School. That's where IB is offered. And that's for regular students, you start IB in 11th grade and you complete in 2 years, 11th and 12th.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? I know we are 17 minutes over time, but I want to make sure if there's any burning question related to your decision making today and tomorrow, we address that. But if there are more philosophical questions, then we will probably try to wrap up sooner.
Hi, Ritu, this is Geeta. I have a question on I want to know whether you have information on how instruction is provided in the science courses like biology, physics, and chemistry, say honors in STEM versus EHS, for example, or any other high school. Is there more practical / project versus theory? I mean, the proportions more in STEM, or is it the same pretty much in any high school?
Yeah, so and that is what I meant by lockstep curriculum in STEM. STEM defines, you pick a path in 11th grade. So it's a path for forensic sciences, environmental and forensic sciences, and which is more biology, astronomy, and all of that stuff. And there's another path that you can pick, which is more related to computer science. And when you are on that path, there is a block of like 3 periods. 3 blocks are allocated to that subject or that path. So for example, forensic science, so there will be first period where they will do the lecture and tutorial and stuff like that, and the block right after that, it's exactly like just lab. You sit in the lab and you work that. So, and then third block is also very similar. So you are mandatory to have, let's say, environmental sciences with lab. So I think it's a very, very, very balanced in STEM. I do not know how it is in EHS, honestly. I did not go to that level of science into other regular high schools.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other question from somebody who has not asked a question and have a burning question?
Hi, Ritu, this is Rachna. How do you get access to the recording?
Oh, I don't know. I did this for the first time. So I will post it on Facebook page when I know how the details are. I guess I'll have to upload somewhere on YouTube, and I can share the link to the video on that Facebook group.
Hi, Ritu.
Thank you.
One last question. So the English Language and Arts program at ICS, and I heard you say arts is creative. Now, do they get creative with the English language as well? As in, if somebody is interested in fiction, poetry, and so on, is there extra support there as opposed to middle school Quest?
So 2 points to that. So first of all, there's no extra support per se. There is no, you can't choose, oh, I want to do poetry. There's no elective, there's no special path, there's no track, there's no extra support for that. They do have Spanish, by the way, I should mention, they do have Spanish starting from 6th grade, which is a huge plus compared to a regular high school. But it is, I do believe that ICS is a little bit more creative than regular middle school.
Okay, because our daughter, she indulges in creative fiction slash poetry writing. So I just wanted to clarify whether the emphasis is on learning what the great poets are, I mean, and stuff like that, or the actively encouraging students to be creative about the process.
Yeah, and the only thing I will say to that, you have to remember one thing. No matter where a kid is going, it's still a public education system. If your kid has a very specific taste or interest, that may not be served by a public school system, so she may have to pursue that outside school. And I'm sure you can find many resources who will do that, and you can get help on.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah. Okay, any other question? Okay, if not, then I guess this marks the end of this session. Hopefully it was useful. As I mentioned, it was recorded, so hopefully I will be able to post it on YouTube and share with all of you. Okay, thank you everyone, and have a great Sunday.
Thanks, Ritu.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.